Tick-tock, it's time to rock.
I missed all of that. I missed the intro and everything.
Oh, do you want us? Okay,
Go
you
around
want
again.
an instant replay?
No, it's all right. It didn't come up with tap for sound. I'm like, yeah, go. It's not doing it.
So we've got a new graphic. We've got a new graphic there at the start now. So we're doing this. We're fiddling around with. We're on air, just in case people don't realize that we're on air, and then we're going to play the intro video. And at some stage with the show, we might even throw up some other kind of graphics just to break things up,
or just throw up. So I want
pleased to meet you.
Who is next ranking the tracks? That's what I want to know. Is that a question?
Hope you guess my name.
Yeah.
My name is Andrew. I'm from New Zealand. I'm one of the co-hosts on the Sunday show. We have on the top tier with us because he's providing t-shirts, so he's on the top tier today. The top tier. We're going to do some modelling for you guys later. British Electric Blues t-shirts. Thank you, Simon. We have Simon on the top tier, and down there in Lockdown Lounge is as the Rev calls him, Bradley. I don't know why. I think he likes his weight. He likes going fishing, doesn't he? When he says that, but I'm not going to call him Bradley. I'm going to call him Brad.
Is that only your parents call you Bradley when you've been naughty?
That's what I mean.
In trouble, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Good to see you guys. It's a pleasure. Always, the Sunday show is awesome. This is going to be an interesting show. This is going to be an interesting one. I look forward to the comments and the rankings and some of the backstories by the co-hosts here because it's a unique record. So the Rev is. Oh, I'll just let the cat out of the bag.
The Rev is. He's in the chat. Or he was in the chat.
I'll just let the cat out of the bag.
Troublemaker.
I was going to say. I meant to say the rock professor.
Nothing is secure with Andrew.
No, nothing. Don't tell me the CIA,
potty mouth,
FBI.
Who slips sink
ships. I was going to say that the rock professor is going to give us some background information. Are you going to join us for the rankings, or are you here just to bloody take over a bloody show again?
I'm just here to say hi. I'll sit in for a little bit.
Sit in, jam at the back, blues in A. Okay, off you go, mate.
I'm probably 30 minutes from hitting the bed, so I'm just gonna hang out for a little bit. I just wanted to see your guys' beautiful faces to make my weekend complete.
How was Collective Soul?
Collective Soul was awesome. I felt a little robbed. They only played an hour. Wow. I think it had to do with what's going on right now. Better and Ezra played for probably 40 minutes. They were great. Tonic was great. It was a great time. I had a good time. Collective Soul, they have a lot of hits, so they could have went for 2 hours, but yeah, they only played an hour, but had a good time.
Not so long. Shall I say hello to the people in the chat whilst we're before we start? Kurt 5150, good morning. Amanda Coombs, I don't know if you're still awake, Amanda, but thanks for dropping by. Ellen Forrestine, good morning, Helen. Teresa Maria, morning. Mark Tanner, of course, Mark. Good morning, Mark. And so I think we've got a few other people who haven't put any comments, but that's cool. So morning, everyone. Hope we're all good.
Morning.
So the footage you sent through, Kurt, looked really good from the concert. Looked magical.
Yeah, my two daughters, my youngest is 16, and my oldest, she's 21. They surprised me with tickets on Father's Day. I haven't been to a live show in a year and a half, probably 2 years. So, man, it was good. And as soon as we walked in the door, they both said, "We're the youngest people here." But I sent you guys a video. They were singing along. They had a good time. It was fun. So
I'll look at that later.
Yeah, went to dinner, just dad and the girls, and then went to the show, went back to the hotel, fell asleep, and then I took them to breakfast this morning and then came home. So it was a good weekend for sure. It's always good to hang out with the kids, spoil them and just hang out and listen to music in the car and just talk about whatever. So it was a good time.
It could have been worse. It could have been a Rolling Stones concert that you took them to.
Yeah, no, that would have been my dad taking me to a Rolling Stones concert. That's his band. He's seen them like probably 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
My dad would never.
Stones and Doors are his band. Yeah.
What is he? The same age as me? This is upsetting.
So my dad was 30 when he had me. So I'm gonna give up my age here, but he's 73.
Oh right, yes, okay. He's 10 years older than me.
There you go.
Yeah, good.
So you're a youngster, Kurt.
I'm a young spring chicken.
Yeah, clearly.
How are you guys doing? Good.
Yeah, I've had a week off this week. Off work. Okay. I've got 2 weeks. Yeah.
That's why you look refreshed, Simon.
Yeah. Been swanning about. Been to see a couple of friends. Went to see my friend. Went to see my friend Gerard, who's from a group called the Blue Aeroplanes. Went to see him on Thursday. That was really cool. I haven't seen him for a year and a half, so that was great to hang out with him, listen to some new stuff. And, yeah, he's one of those people. He's got like 10,000 records. Yeah, he's got everything, absolutely everything, in all over the place, everything. Amazing. He's amazing. So it was really great to see him. So yeah, I've been having some fun this week.
Yeah, I think we're
and we had my first band practice in a year and a half. Me and Dave actually got together, first time, a year and a half.
Wow.
God, we were rusty. How does this go again?
How do you actually play guitar?
I was just going to say, I think, Simon, we're going to have some magical stuff come out, considering everyone's been... Uh-oh, we lose him?
He drops out occasionally.
Okay. Since we've been kind of taking a hiatus for a year and a half or 2 years, I really think there's some magic coming among us, considering nothing's really officially been released. People haven't really been able to do what they want to do. So I truly think that there's going to be some magical stuff that's going to come out within the next year. Yeah.
That's
I
better.
agree.
Yeah.
I think once the gates open for live entertainment, I think it's going to be hopefully to be embraced in a positive way.
Release the Kraken. Because I mean, really, we've been blessed to have live music at our fingertips, and if we wanted to see it in person or whatever for the last 100 years, and to have that on hiatus for a year and a half, I really truly think that when you put a cap on creativity, something good's going to happen. That's my positive thought.
Yep. Next week I might even buy some tickets to a gig for next February.
That's the thing at the moment. Like, there's a lot of bands that I follow. I've been going to see them play for 10, 15 years before the pandemic.
Hullabaloo.
And they've been trying to reschedule dates for 18 months, and they've just finally come to a point where they're saying, well, they're not even going to reschedule those cancelled dates anymore. So they've just got to, hopefully move forward and try to reschedule things until they know what's happening. So it's disappointing, but,
Yeah. Start again.
Fresh button, refresh.
Yeah. I think that's
where I was at yesterday, it's a 3.5 hour drive east of where I live. Sammyhagar's is playing tomorrow. I might just wake up in the morning and pour a pot of coffee and just take off and go check them out. I would love to, but and Wolfgang, he played in Seattle, which is 2.5 hours west of where I'm at. He played tonight, and he's playing in Portland tomorrow. So this weekend's really a huge. If I would have planned it right, I could have saw 3 unbelievable shows. But I'm a little bit conservative, and I can't spend that much money,
Oh, come on. You're old. That's the real reason you got lots of cash, man. It's just you're old. Stop using the cash as an excuse, brother.
How'd you know I came home and took a 2-hour nap when I got home?
Yeah. You're not the party animal you used to be.
You're right, Andrew. You are right. I can't fool you.
Wait a minute. He's a youngster. You shouldn't be taking naps. A man of your not advanced age should not be taking naps. This is for me.
I got gray hair, Simon.
Yes. We've still got some. Well done. That's okay. You wait till you get to my age, you've still got some. Then you'll be just happy, whatever the colour. But you're a post-parambial naps. Honestly, man of your age, good Lord.
Have you been talking to my wife? She gives me a hard time about naps. I think you've been talking to her.
Yes, quite rightly too. So yes, you see, giving away your dad's age and then telling him what to see. Now we know just how young you are, Kurt. From where I'm standing, your age is a long way. I can't see it in my rear view mirrors.
Awesome. Well, while I've got you two here, I want to say again, thank you very much, Simon, for the T-shirt, and the Rev, thank you very much for the unboxing. I'm going to do a separate little video for that, the Van Halen magazine, the Beatles magazine, the picks, the strings. And I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
That Beatles magazine is, like, I could have gave that to my brother because he's a huge Beatles fan, but man, there's some good. I read that. That's a good magazine.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Look forward to it. Going to use that for some upcoming shows. As you know, the Rock Press Professor and Brad and I are going to be doing the new movie that's going to be coming out. They'll be screening that soon. I think that's coming on Disney. So, and there'll be a bit of a.
Isn't it going to be four 1 hour things? Isn't it? Yeah. It's going to be.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's proper, serious, balanced view of it.
And we know that the Rev
not anodized.
No, and we know that the Rev was a Beatles nut. So you're more than welcome, brother, to jump on those shows with us if you're up and about. You just have to have a couple of sleeps during the day to join us, I suppose.
Naps. If I were to think back less than 40 years ago, so maybe when I was 4, 5, 6, the Beatles that was my first memory of music, was the Beatles. My grandma was a huge Elvis fan, so like Elvis was a little bit, but I had a brother that's about 6 years older than me, and in high school he was a huge Beatles fan, and he was kind of an outcast for being a huge Beatles fan. His first guitar was a Rickenbacker, and so still to this day he's a huge Beatles fan. But that was my introduction to rock and roll, was Beatles, for sure.
Isn't it interesting that, you know, when we meet cats like that ourselves, we go, wow, you're cool. When we get, when we hear stories about how, you love the Rolling Stones or the Beatles. You know, Caleb's in the chat here. He fell in love with The Who, which is one of the albums that we're going to be talking about tonight, and also the Rolling Stones. So you can't go wrong, Brad, can you? You can't go wrong when you discover and you're honest about one of these bands or a couple of these bands being the foundation for your, what's the word, Simon? Love affair, your passion down the path of music. You can't go wrong, can you?
Definitely not. Definitely not. All the pioneers like the Beatles, you can't go past them.
Nope.
Yeah. And what I know of Brad's musical influence is like a Rubik's Cube. You know, those Rubik's Cubes with all the different squares and different, like, really, he surprises me with his diversity and span of music that he loves. And I can tell it's not just, oh, I like that song. Like, Brad, you're very versed in your musical influence.
Don't you think most people are like that, Kurt?
Yeah,
most people are like that.
Most people are like that, but he's a few years older than me, and I kind of would have expected him to be, like Lenny Kravitz and the Guns N' Roses, and narrow-minded, I guess.
Yep.
And he's not narrow-minded, which I respect that. The fact that it's a wide inspiration, which is cool. That's why I love you guys, is because it's not narrow-minded.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm just music's my addiction, and I love all kinds of music. So once I get into a band, I become like, I want to know the ins and outs. I want to know every song. I don't want to skip any tracks, So it's kind of that's like that for me. If I'm into an artist, I'm into them.
Yeah. And Simon, I know you pick a lot of these albums that you guys do. You do a majority of them?
No. We each pick one as we go around. But so I picked this week's because it's my shout. But I've been on a bit of a Bob Marley kick this week.
Oh,
Catch
you
a
have?
Fire, early Bob Marley. Yeah, Catch a Fire, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Grooving. Yesterday I was out for a walk, listening to Bob Marley. With Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer. Yeah, really cool. Really cool stuff.
No, I've been impressed with some of the albums you guys have picked. Not one time have I been surprised. I put it that way, which is, I think, is cool. So with that being said, don't let me get in the way. You guys continue.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. It's always good to get recognition from other co-hosts, because we're all family here, brother, so we appreciate it. We're in awe of the contribution that you give and do, and the pillar that you are on the 5150 show. So for you to extend that, I see my co-hosts here. I'm going to take it a little bit further, and it's not a Rubik's Cube because I don't think there's enough. There's not enough components on a Rubik's Cube. I'm going to say it's a big bag or a big jar of marbles that Simon has and that Kurt has, and they just go into that jar and they pick this music out, and and then they're just with that marble, and to a degree you are too, because I know a little bit, Kurt, about your musical tastes as well. The fact that we just focus on Van Halen with you, you could get caught. If you get caught in the trap and just think that the Rev is just only listening to Van Halen, you are going to make a serious mistake. But yeah, look, I think that's one of the great things about our show is that we celebrate these classic bands, and we have an opportunity to sort of go off on some of these little tangents. Big part of what we do. So sit back, Rev, jump in. The Rock Professor's going to do the introduction on the album, talk a little bit about it, and then we're going to go through, and you can take part in this if you want, about this album, when you first heard it, what your general thoughts and observations are on The Who, and then we'll get into the track ranking. Rock Professor.
Take it away. Yes. Well, okay. Yes. Who's next? It's the 5th album by an English rock band, The Who, following up from their previous smash hit, Tommy, where they first got into the rock opera bit. The album came about because Pete Townshend had a very grandioso themed, it's a multimedia event called Lifehouse that he'd spent some time getting together, but it never got off the ground really because it just got too complicated, too vague, and I think that his major problem was he'd become quite estranged from Kit Lambert, the Who's co-manager. Kit Lambert, if you don't know, was a real integral part of introducing Pete to grand concepts. Nice one, Mark.
Read that comment out, because every now and again, you know, if it's not Mark, it's Warren.
Yes. Lovely. I'm as old as Simon, my beard is as grey as Andrew's, and my hair is as long as Brad's. You're not.
At least it wasn't.
He has nothing in common with you.
At least it wasn't my belly's as big as Kurt's.
Oh!
That would have been harsh.
I know. Maybe in 10 years it probably will be.
Yeah.
I won't stand up, ladies and gentlemen, then.
Yeah. Breathe in before you do. Always looks good.
We know your shirts. We know your shirt size, Andrew. We've all given you shirts.
Yeah.
Small.
Yes, the camera.
Small
puts,
means.
the camera puts £20 on you. It's in all the books. Yeah. Oh dear. So anyway, yes. So I was going to say the thing about Kit Lambert is he introduced Pete Townshend to kind of more sort of, you know, thinking about rock in more grandioso terms, certainly more serious terms, more intellectually serious. So introduced him into the world of, you know, of classical music, because interestingly, his father, Kit Lambert's father, was a composer called Constant Lambert, who was who, amongst his other things, I spotted this as I was he married somebody called Isabel Del Mar, who was a great friend of my mum and dad's. So my mum and dad, she married a composer called Alan Rawsthorne. My mum and dad, in fact, Alan and Isabel were best man and woman at my mum and dad's wedding. Wow. But Constant Lambert also, another connection, he wrote a four-handed white note piano piece. So do you only play it on the white notes? Four-handed, so two pianists for my grandmother and her identical twin. They used to play pianos together. Go out and they taught at the Guildhall as well. But Mary and Jolie and Pepin, there we are. So I have 6 degrees of separation from Kit Lambert. I'm less than that. Get in. Which I think is that's very nice. So I'd forgotten that. I'm sure my mum and dad would have told me, and I think my mum and dad knew Constant Lambert. So anyway, but Constant Lambert worked at the ballet principally, and the Royal Ballet, helped set up the Royal Ballet in the UK. So very big in classical music, and therefore Kit Lambert knew a lot about it, and then introduced Pete to it, and hence we had Tommy, which is a kind of first rock opera, if you like. So, you know, an operatic theme, but using rock music to do it. And then he had another idea for something called Lifehouse, which evolved from a series of newspaper columns that he wrote in Melody Maker, 1970, famous British music rock paper, Melody Maker, in which he discussed the importance of rock music. I mean, in 1971, rock music was important, and people took it seriously, and rock musicians I'm sure that they had ideas, possibly above their station, but they had ideas. They had a view of what rock was, and as we've discussed on the show a lot, that kind of from '67 through the Summer of Love and all of that. The album started to become the thing, and it started to be viewed as a piece of art. This is art. This is not just a few banging out a few pop songs. This is art. We have something important to say. We are a new generation, and we have a different view of the world and all of that. And this, the post-war generation, baby boomers, and all of that had I think so. Therefore, this is part of that. Generally, music is art. Rock music is art. We have something important, serious to say, and Pete is obviously buying into that, or being one of the leading lights of it. To be honest, as so he was keen on producing this thing called Lifehouse, which was going to be a multimedia event, and with them playing live, the Who playing live with an audience, and but also having other elements to it, films, and I mean, there's one element that actually describes the future in it. There's something called the grid, which resembles the internet and stuff as well. So prescient in its way. But the problem with, as I said, the problem with Lifehouse was that it failed because Kit didn't bring the ability to. What Kit Lambert brought was the ability to make it a story. Make a story stick and make the things fit the story and have a narrative and have a thing. And I don't think Pete really understood how to do that. He could write songs, but he needed Kit to do the narrative bit, and Kit wasn't around to do the narrative bit. They're becoming estranged, and so eventually it kind of petered out. Really, they had a go at it, but it didn't really work, and they hired the old Vics. So they were going to do it, and then it never really got off the ground because they couldn't get the old Vic, because the old Vic had plays going on in it. So they could only do the old night, and it never really got off the ground. So eventually it got kind of scrapped, but the remnants of it are what Who's Next is based on. There's quite a lot of the songs that were in Lifehouse that are on Who's Next, and Pete's never given up. I mean, he produced something called the Lifehouse Chronicles in the early 2000s, which is a bit of an attempt to put it back together, kind of thing. Certainly as a musical thing, but if not not the other bits of it. I mean, So really interesting that the plot of it was set in a society in the near future in which music is banned, and most of the popular live indoor places are government controlled. And there's this rebel guy called Bobby who broadcasts rock music into the suits that they wear, allowing people to remove them, become more enlightened. So there's a kind of enlightenment thing about it. And as I say, never really got off the ground. But Pete did, as I say, the basis of Who's Next has lots of songs from Lifehouse, and also Pete introduced the his work with synthesizers, particularly. And I think in 1971, not many people, Pink Floyd, we just got a VCS3 to use on Dark Side of the Moon. Stevie Wonder was doing some stuff in America, but that wouldn't come out for another year. So there's still synthesizers are still really new things, and Pete is, it's funny, you look at them now and it doesn't really sound, I don't think it's, you get that retrospection that you get from looking back 50 years ago. And this is the reason we're doing it, because it was 50 years ago last week that it was released. Well, this week, 17th, I think. 25th of, where are we? There's a bit, it was released in August. 14th of August, there we are. So it was in the UK, it's released. So that's why we're doing it, because it's 50 years old. So I think it's pretty groundbreaking at the time and stuff. So, so they kind of reconvened and, to get an album together. And I think the credit for this must go to Glyn Johns. Absolutely. He kind of got together, saw that there were a single album's worth of songs that they could do something, really great songs they could do something with, put it together without the narrative, without the things, and without trying to put a narrative on them, because it wasn't really going to work and people weren't really going to understand it or spot that there was one. So he just went and decided that they were just going to record the songs, put them together as a 9-song album, and put them out. And that's really what he did. So they had most of it was recorded at Olympic Studios in Barnes, with Glyn Johns, and some of it was done at Mick Jagger's house, Stargrove, and some of it was done in America as well. He did some bits in America. So and he, and Johns really went about creating the sound, creating a good sound, getting the sound. And I think Townsend had the synthesizers and things that he bought in, and then they just built up the tracks from there. So yeah, interesting, that where it came from and what. And although Glyn Johns is only credited as the engineering capacity, yeah, it is really good. Just under 15, absolutely. Oh, I got it somewhere. Might be. Oh yes, I'm using it as my iPad stand. But he had a lot more to do with it, just engineering it. Yeah. I got my iPad on a pile of books.
My Surface is propped up with a book too.
Yeah.
Makes you look taller.
Get to the same level as your head. Vaguely. So anyway, that's the kind of bit of background about the album. So there we are. There's the cover. Mm-hmm. A monolith in Sheffield, apparently. But I mean, that it's a sort of it has a nod to 2001, the monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm.
Yeah, and here we are. Trivia quiz question: why is the computer in 2001 called HAL? Do you know this? Why the computer in 2001: A Space Odyssey is called HAL?
No.
Because HAL is one letter before IBM.
No way.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's called that. See?
Wow.
Each letter is one letter before. That's why it's called HAL. There we are. That's my rock trivia for today.
There you go.
So that's the rock professor already.
Boom. Straight in.
Awesome, Simon. I've got a couple of photos that we'll flick through when we go through some of the tracks, if that's okay. But we've got a couple of cats in the chat that have joined us while you were giving us that wonderful introduction. We've got Bent Tom. Hey, Bent. Hope you're feeling better, bro. We've got Hoss in here. He's jumped in here. And Jazz. Really appreciate you guys. On the bottom there, if you guys haven't already subscribed to our Instagram accounts, on the bottom there, you guys will see them. You've got the Rev there, you've got the Rock Professor, you've got Brad there, and you've got also Michael, another close friend of the channel. You guys want any of your Instagram accounts to be on that bottom banner, flick them to us and we'll put them on there. I've been asking you guys to indate our inboxes with all these social media links, and I'm not getting any. And if these other co-hosts are getting them, they're not passing them on.
No, not getting any. You have to put Hoss on the hospital. You've got to put his in there.
I should, yeah.
Flick it up there, Andrew.
Flick us your social media accounts, guys, and we'll collect, collectively, whatever, jar them,
collaborate,
press them, ring them in, and we'll get them on here.
Oh dear. Yeah, we say good morning to Caleb, Nerdhalen, Crappy Luxury has popped in. Nelson, of course. Nelson Rodriguez. Morning, Nelson. Who else do we have? Tim Thomas, the Pride of Gothenburg. Which I'm sure is a ferry ship, isn't it? The Pride of Gothenburg? I'm sure I've been on it. It recurs to me.
No.
So,
no.
Jazz Thunder 50.
No. Haven't been on any ferries.
You did say ferry, didn't you? You did say ferry, didn't you?
Ferry, sorry. Back to
Last
work.
ferry I was on was a YouTube show.
Careful
yeah,
that.
good. Hey. The Rev. Give us a bit of your background as far as the Who's concerned. You know, how did you trip upon the Who?
So I don't want to bring the show down or get emotional or so, you know, I told you my dad served in the Vietnam War. He went in 67, and his brother was drafted in 69, which was his younger brother. And he didn't make it back in whole. And he was injured down there and lost half of his brain.
Just your dad, Kurt?
Yeah, my dad's younger brother, who's 18 months younger than him. So he was handicapped for the rest of his life. Uncle Bob, you know, one of those uncles that was always your favorite. You know, he couldn't work. You know, he was very limited in what he could do. But one of his birthdays, I think when I was 16, when I had enough money to make when I had a job where I could make some money, I wanted to buy him a birthday gift. And I asked my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm going to buy Uncle Bob a CD. Like, is there any bands that he likes or, you know, because I think he recently just got a new car that had a CD player. So my dad's like, he loved The Who. And so I got him this album for his birthday. And he was blown away because I think 71, when this came out, is when he was in VA hospital down in Florida, and like it brought back some memories. So this band kind of has a little bit of special place in my heart with my Uncle Bob, and we lost him to cancer about 8 years ago. So yeah. So whenever I hear, especially 2 or 3 songs off this album, it always brings me back to my Uncle Bob. So
fantastic.
That's kind of how special it is to me.
And clearly how special it was to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's connection, you know, and think about if you have a niece or nephew and they buy you a CD or a vinyl or a tape from someone that you liked when you were younger, it was probably a pretty big deal to him, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a brilliant story. Okay, fantastic. Yeah.
Brad,
isn't it wonderful that like bands and songs and you can relate like an album or a song or a band to memories to someone, which is that's a wonderful memory to have anyway, Kurt. So, you know, carry that one close, buddy, because it's you know, every time you hear a Who song, you're going to think of him.
Right.
So, yeah. So yeah. Oh well, for me, the Who, it must have been a little bit after I got into bands like Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I was heavily into David Bowie as well, and someone said to me, one of my friends, his name was Luke Foley. He goes, "Oh, my brother listens to this band, The Who. Have a listen." And he gave me a greatest hits album. I think it was just called The Who's Greatest Hits, and it had everything on it, like, you know, My Generation, Pinball Wizard, Won't Get Fooled Again. I'm pretty sure, you know, Who Are You was on it. Had a handful of all their hits anyway from their sort of, you know, the early or mid 60s, I think it was.
I bought that album. It was great. It had a great cover on it, I think.
Yeah,
it wasn't called Meaty, Beaty, Big and Bouncy, was it? That was a Who compilation.
I just looked it up on the internet. I think it is called Who's Greatest Hits, and I'm pretty sure that was it. But anyway, look, that was my introduction to it, and obviously going backwards, then I went and I got a copy of Tommy, because it was obviously, you know, everyone would talk about The Who and talk about Tommy, so I got that, and I also I bought this one, so Who's Next as well. So, but this album, and it's been really really good to listen to it this week, Simon. So it's been a good pick because, you know, I don't want to give too much away in the rankings and stuff like that, but it sounds very fresh to me listening to it. There's especially the drum sounds for that era were very good. I mean, you could tell. We all know Keith Moon was a sensational drummer, but they captured really good drum tones and everything for this era. And yeah, so anyway, that's my little segue into the ranking the tracks there. How about yours, Andrew?
Oh, pretty much standard. You know, like a lot of people's exposure to classic music, you know, through the radio. You know, it was always played on the radio. You know, and I've said this before. You know, when we've done a lot of these albums, you know, my generation, you just knew these songs. You heard them when I was growing up, and when I fell in love with the Beatles and started reading, they make all these connections, don't they, with the Rolling Stones and the Who. You know, the Mods and the Rockers. You know, and but I'll be honest and upfront. I never dug the Who for a long time. You know, I was a Stones and a Beatles nut. It wasn't until I got into my late teens where I appreciated Tommy, which you guys have mentioned, and this album. And like Brad said, I'm not going to jump in too much, but some of the songs on this album, which are radio songs, deservedly so. You know, they're masterpieces, some of the songs. But listening to this album again in context from the beginning to the end, again, was refreshing and gave me a couple of cool insights that I can't wait to share with you guys. The Who for me were always a serious band. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but you know, the Rolling Stones were never serious in my opinion, and nor were the Beatles. But the Who were. They gave me that impression right from the word go. They were the serious band, and I think Townsend deliberately did that too. I think it was a deliberate thing where he, you know, he said, "Well, look, you know, we've got to do something a little bit different." So clever guy, smart guy, but yeah. Rock Professor, first track.
One thing, Andrew, before we start, which is going to hit home with a lot of people in the United States, is in the probably 2000s, there was a TV show that came out on mainstream television called CSI, which is, I don't know if they aired that in the UK or down in Australia or New Zealand. Are you guys familiar with it? Yeah, so when CSI came out and Bob O'Reilly was,
of course, yeah,
that song, and then they did CSI, you know, there's been 5 or 6 spin-offs, Miami and New Orleans and Vegas and a few others, and they all had Who songs at the beginning. Really revamped their mainstream you know, popularity in the United States. And when it came out, I was like, oh yeah, I know these guys, and everyone's like, oh really? Like, this is like grandpa's music. And I'm like, no, this is the Who. They're awesome, you know. And they, you know, became popular because of this stinking TV show with the younger generation, if people weren't really prevalent to classic rock. So yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, in contrast, I got this album in 1972 when I started buying records. You know, it was one of the first records I bought. You know, when you're buying Led Zeppelin 4 and you're buying this, and you know, and
it's mandatory.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you know the songs were hits and they were on the radio. You know, and they were current. You know, Won't Get Forward Again. You know, Behind Blue Eyes. These were songs that, you know, Bob O'Reilly, they were out as singles in the UK, and they were you know, part of, you know, daily sort of, you know, radio life and things like that. So completely. Morning, Amanda. She's still awake. It's so yeah. It's kind of, this is where I came in really with the Who. Yeah, awesome. As a band, you know, and I agree with you. I think it is really interesting that I can remember, Pete Townsend would give long interviews in the NME or the, right, about, be very serious about rock music. I think, in maybe a way that you're right, Andrew, in a way that the Stones maybe weren't. They were, but they didn't present it like that in quite the same way. Townsend was he's very erudite and can put a good quote together and a good idea, and was able to put across. Clearly had this. The Lifehouse is one of his many ideas, and was able to put those things across. And he was always really interesting, Townsend. Because I think not only did he have that interesting, but there was that kind of spiritual thing about him as well that brought something extra to the music. So they've been the soundtrack, and Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy, which was a British compilation that came out in '71 as well. I can remember getting that too because it had Boris the Spider and Substitute and Can't Explain and all the stuff from their earlier kind of pop era. But going back, when they did, is it a quick one where they did it with all the jingles between the tracks and all that kind of gear? I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's amazingly. This is 1965 or something, so it's amazingly kind of has a sort of art rock edge. Remember, these guys are all these are art school guys. Pete Townsend went to art school. And I've spoken about. I'm not going to go on, but the art school in the late 50s and early 60s, Kurt, was this massive kind of. Everyone went to art school. Clapton, Jagger, they all went to art school. That's what they did because it was like the breeding ground for rock musicians. People who were interested in making music, but making music as art. That's where it comes in. That's the influence, and they all went to art school. Keith Richards went to art school.
That's interesting because I wouldn't say it's considered art anymore. It's almost in like performance or performing arts, or where back then, it was probably more general and
it's just
being creative,
big ideas, and and wanting to say something serious about the world. About I think it's not just riding down the road in my Lincoln Continental, whatever. These songs are not about that in any way, shape, or form. They're about Barbara Russell. We'll get onto that in a minute. It's about something completely different. It has a much more grandiose idea behind it, and wants to say something in a bigger context. And I think most music these days is it's kind of there's the experiential thing. Not. You get people write broader things, but I feel like it's much more about personal experience these days and what I'm doing than it is about, especially in the mainstream. Remember in 1971, the Who were in the mainstream. They had singles, pop hits, and things. And it's kind of completely different world where everything now is compartmentalized. And chart music is a genre on its own. Amongst hundreds of other genres. Then didn't have any of that. You just put out music and you put out a single and it got played on the radio and people bought it, and it went in the charts. And you had these kind of amazingly crazy charts. Where you have some really middle of the road stuff, and then you'd have the Who or Black Sabbath, and then you'd have Jimi Hendrix, and then you get some other middle of the road stuff that And it was a complete mishmash, a complete mix of things. That you don't really get now because it's not now it's much more as I say, chart music is a genre of itself. I'm going to make a chart record has a certain way of doing it, certain set of sounds, a certain palette of things you use to to enable you to get that, and it never had that then, fortunately. So we had the tremendous variety.
Right.
Awesome. That's great. So if you want to lead us into the first track on the album, Simon, that would be really cool, followed by Brad and myself, and the Rev's just going to, I don't know what the Rev's going to do. The Rev's going to sit there and go.
He's going to comment and score.
Yeah, I'll just chime in where I can. I don't want to. I really don't want to just make something up or fly off the
No,
cuff.
that's fine.
So I'll just chime in where I can.
No.
Awesome.
I'm here to learn.
So the first track, but of course, the classic Barbara O'Reilly. Originally written, like many of the songs, we'll say this a lot, for the Lifehouse project, about a Scottish farmer called Ray, who would have sung the song at the beginning as he gathered his wife Sally and his 2 children to begin their exodus to London. But the song basically is made up of 2 names: Meher Baba, which was Pete Townshend's guru, who was an Indian guy, and Terry Riley. I don't know if you guys have come across Terry Riley. He's a kind of avant-garde musician. Rainbow in Curved Air is the Terry Riley album that I remember. Again, that kind of sort of avant-garde edge to, you don't really think of the Who as an avant-garde thing, but that kind of use of synthesizers and the beginning of Barbara O'Reilly is a really good example of that. That synthesizer based thing that putting it through a Lowry organ. That well done, Mark. Yes, you see that kind of thing. That kind of loop, that kind of droney sort of thing. It was quite avant-garde in 1971, and it certainly came from that. Not purely pop thing. And the Beatles have been doing it as well. I mean, the Beatles have been doing, as we've discussed on here, for synthesizers and, keyboard things. On Abbey Road, we discussed it on Abbey Road. So, there's absolutely that, that, and Pink Floyd were doing it at the same time as well, trying to produce these things. So that's where the title comes from. It's that beginning bit that they have is this kind of modal approach, which was definitely inspired by Terry Riley. It derives from a 9-minute demo. Can you imagine having 9 minutes of that? Yeah, the 9 minutes, which which the band reconstructed. I mean, it was initially 30 minutes in length, but edited down to the high points of the track. I'd love to hear the 30-minute version of it.
Could you imagine the record producers nowadays if you tried to bring them a 30-minute demo of one song?
Yeah. Oh, what's that happening? Yeah. Well, I think that possibly Glyn Johns thought slightly the same thing. He's like, it's too long, man. Let's pick it out and see what we can do with it. But it's and it's basically that time Townsend was believed in Meher Baba's message of enlightenment and things, and this is a big influence on things like Barbara O'Reilly and also See Me Feel Me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, he's very much bought into that sort of the guru thing with it, and I think it helped Townsend a lot in many ways. I think so. It as we know, it starts off with that kind of the synth loop melody through the Lowry organ, piano and synth processed, which Townsend did in his home studio. Because I think he's probably one of the first people to have a home studio, which he could had all this stuff in, and look at that, play that if you can. Yeah, not something you take out on tour.
Looks like the old telephone where you plug in.
Yeah. And do you know what? That's exactly how it works. That it has a pin board, and you take something out. You have a sound generator, and you take it, and with the pin board, you have to take it out of there and put it into a filter. So you put a pin in that connects that with that, and then you go around again. You come out of the filter, and then you put it into a ring modulator. So you put another pin in. So you just with the pins make the connection, leads or whatever. But yeah, that's how it works. That's how analog they were in 1971. That's a little funny. Yeah. My dad had one. My dad had an EMS, VCS3. All that blah stuff on Dark Side of the Moon.
Uh-huh.
My dad had one of those in 1971.
Yeah, I remember seeing that episode where you talked about that.
Yeah. And he later briefly bought the company. He gave it to somebody else, but a guy who'd worked there. He gave it to a guy who worked there in 1971, and Robin Wood, who still makes stuff under it. But it was a very analog sort of analog way of doing it with these pins and stuff, or leads and things. Taking one thing out of one thing, putting it into another. that was the original synthesizer. It was basically just a load of boxes, and you went and plugged. You literally had a lead, like a guitar lead, into one, out of the other, into, you know. So you had this like a bunch of boxes, and then these leads going out.
Wow.
My dad went to a demonstration of the VCS3 before it came out, and that's what it was. It was just a series of boxes with leads that went between it. So very analog. But you know, the thing about this, I think the thing about it is that that first 30 seconds, when it's just the synthesizer thing, that loop thing, is a fantastically creative thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's got a melody. It's got it's musical. It's not just a kind of noise and a drone. I can make a noise. He's made a melody and a song out of it. That and I think that's the important bit to say, is that these things are being used in a pop sense. They have a pop sensibility to them. I'm trying to make something catchy, commercial, but I'm trying to have an avant-garde edge to it. Well, I think there's lots of music from this time that has that kind of thing, which doesn't happen now, and I don't think happened later. I think the avant-garde edge kind of got beaten out of it quite a lot, and people didn't do that after a while because it's thing. But fantastic, that first bit, and then obviously you've got the piano, and then you've got the drums come in, and you're into. And the interesting, it's got that kind of it's that 1-4-5 thing, isn't it? I mean, that's how it's 1-5-4 thing. F, C, B flat. Really, it's a 3-chord song, which is amazing. But there's so much in it in terms of what it does and the way that they drop out and come back in again. The drums, not rolling around and then not, and at the end they've got the violin solo from Dave Arbus from East of Eden. East of Eden was when I was 14. I used to go to a club in Bristol called Tiffany's. On a Wednesday night, it had rock night, and that East of Eden song "Jig a Jig" was an absolute staple of that of that night. I used to play it every time. Just with this, it's not Mark Turner. It's not called Teenage Wasteland. Interestingly, that Teenage Wasteland reference is a reference to Woodstock. The kids at Woodstock, they're all wasted. That's what it's about, really, and about not necessarily a particularly positive view. I think Pete Townsend not necessarily had the most positive view of the wasted kids of Woodstock, and that's partly what that's about. About losing it, but so I think an amazingly creative track. As crams more in into was it 5 minutes than some bands doing whole albums. It's and that's got good guitar stuff. So I mean, it's a Brad score for me. It's 100 out of 10. It's one of the classic rock songs of all time in my books. You only need to hear 1 second of it to know what it is, and it is absolutely 100 out of 10 and never a skip.
It's interesting that someone brought up in the chat that they thought the title of the song was called
Teenage Wasteland. Yeah.
Teenage Wasteland. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for 2 seconds. Because I always thought it was, and then obviously when I bought the album, I used to still think it was Teenage Wasteland, and then one day it dawned on me that it's not called Teenage Wasteland. It's called
She's been.
Yeah. So that was probably who mentioned that in the chat? I've lost that.
I think it was Bent Tom.
Okay, yeah. So I actually thought it was Bent. So I agree with you there. But I mean, look, I'll just briefly go over my notes here. I've got a lot of notes on this, so I'll keep it sort of in depth and short to the point. I don't want to sort of double up on what Simon's already done, which was great. The intro is fantastic with that oscillating type synth and the organ and piano. When Keith Moon comes in with that thunderous drumming, it's such a impact. It's like in your face. It's such a great feel on the drums. He was an explosive drummer. The bass kicks in after a few passes that comes in at the same time as the vocals, and Roger Daltrey's voice is amazing in this song. There's some fantastic overdub guitars from Pete Townsend. I mean, his big clangy chordal stuff. It's it's classic. And I'll mention a couple of things as we get on in some of the other songs that some of the stuff kind of I can hear a Keith Richards influence on Pete Townsend with his rhythm playing, and especially with some of the later songs. It's definitely there. I love the drum. I noted here, I love the drum fill that brings the song back in at 2 minutes 31. There's just loads of energy in his performance. It's amazing. Cool little outro sort of solo section, and the song, it's got like a very exotic feel at the end as well. So look, for me, it's a 20 out of 10. It's never a skip. Andrew.
Oh, look, I agree with you. It's a masterpiece. The song is a masterpiece. It's a song that always captured my imagination when I was a young cat, and still do. There's a couple of things that I want to share with you guys and people in the chat. There's a couple of things you got to do with this song. You've got to put yourself, and Almost Famous, the film that came out in 2000, makes a reference to Tommy. But there's a quote that I want you guys to reflect on when you listen, particularly to this song. So, listen to Tommy with the candle burning, and you will see your entire future. I'm going to say, and that's reference to Tommy. I'm going to say, do that with this song, because the song plays tricks on you. You just focus and listen to the electronic piece that Simon and Brad have spoken about, and that sequence goes all the way through the song. You listen to that and you're exhausted. After 5 minutes, you're exhausted. It's really hard to do. And Simon's made a link that, to Pete Townsend's metaphysical experiences that he was going through. So obviously that's part and parcel of that. Love it. I love it. I think it's a great exercise. It's a wonderful piece of music behind the vocals, behind the rock and roll, if you like, behind the drumming, Brad, that you've mentioned. There's something going on. And I think that's one of the great things about this song. And you don't pick that up on the radio very well, do you? That electronic piece. You pick it up on the intro, but then you realise, holy shit, it's actually playing all the way through the song.
Yeah. I can't imagine someone putting this on vinyl for the first time, not knowing, and just playing it from the beginning, like mind blowing. Like, what is this? This is incredible.
But if you think about it in a context of where in this, you've got Dark Side of the Moon, you've got this, you've got you've got you've got this massively expanding horizon of what rock thinks it can do. Yeah, it's 1971 is the annus mirabilis of the album. It's probably the greatest year of the album. You could argue backward, but and this is right up there. And I think that having that horizon of those things is, you just put things on, and because as I've talked about the breadth of music that there was out there then, and the amount of experimentation that people were doing, pushing the boundaries of what the instruments would do, where they were, and in lessons in dynamics, dropping these out, coming back in, which this clearly all has, were part and parcel of what rock musicians were taking it seriously. Yeah, and if it's Neil Young doing Harvest, or if it's David Bowie doing Ziggy Stardust, they're serious. They're serious about it. They got an idea. And a kind of art school idea about it that is, and I think that's why old fools like me hark back to those times, because it had that kind of optimistic kind of view that you just don't get anymore. And I think that's part of it, really. When record companies weren't in control, when artists were in control, they did what they wanted. And the old, as I say, if you kind of go further down the sort of step, this is at the top. If you go further down, investigate other groups. There's other groups doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Mad kind of. There's something called the Canterbury scene with Caravan and Soft Machine and all these other guys. Doing quite avant-garde stuff. Playing and people like King Crimson, of course, with Robert Fripp. Doing a completely different thing. So, yeah, it's a very broad horizon, that musical horizon in 1971, and there's a lot going on. So, almost in a sense, it didn't sound that out of place because everybody's pushing the limits. When everybody's pushing the limits, and everybody's pushing the limits in terms of rhythms, sounds, what they can do, pushing the limits. I mean, led by the Beatles. Let's not. Let's give credit where credit is due. That introducing the avant-garde into mainstream pop is probably the Beatles, I would say.
Well
maybe
said.
The Beach Boys, but so they're following on, carrying on with that. But that's the point about it, and that's that horizon thing that I don't think you get anymore, which is makes it brilliant. I was there.
Okay, so we've just had Simon's second introduction on the album, ladies and gentlemen. So,
Diatribe number 2. Yes, shut up.
Yeah. So we'll get back to. So where was I? I think I was talking something about listening to the track and how the track goes through the music, and it kind of blew me away because I think I was an old cat when I realized that, and I just want to pass that on. If you guys haven't listened to that song, if you've been listening to it on classic radio for the last 20 or 30 years, go and listen to it on Spotify. I think Mark is making a reference there in the chat. Headphones, mandatory when you're ranking the tracks. Headphones are the key to get the best out of it. But seriously, though, I'm not going to repeat everything that the rock professor has said, but this is a masterpiece. It's worth the price of the album, and I'm going to give it a Brad score. It's 20 out of 10, and it's never a skip.
It's not possible, is it?
In my head, it's Teenage Wasteland.
Oh dear. So anyway, yes, 1 hour and 7 minutes in, track number 2. Yes.
Sorry,
we're doing well. It's fine. So track number 2 is Bargain, which is an introduction to. So Daltrey sings the verses and Townsend sings the bridge of this. It's clearly it's a love song, but it has that influence by Meher Baba. I gladly lose me to find you. I gladly give up all I had to find you. I'd suffer anything and be glad. And that's very kind of Meher Baba kind of teaching stuff, that mystic kind of teaching about losing myself. Townsend said that it's a song that expresses how much of a bargain it would be to lose everything in order to be at one with God. So it's it has a kind of a spiritual edge to it. But starting off with an acoustic guitar and a drone in the background. Again, that kind of drone thing in the background. Synthesizers, heavy part of this album. It's quite interesting, that they are on pretty much all the tracks, I think. Maybe not one, but I know I'm nothing without you is another line. So interestingly, starts off as just I don't know, it's got this backwards guitar on it at the beginning, is it? And with that ARP synth drone, I think it was, and again, Townsend sings the middle 8 in the middle, and it has those kind of power chords as well, classic Townsend power chords to start, which is great, and I agree with you, Brad, about that kind of Keith Richards thing, that kind of stopping down, stopping that he does. That is, that is just, It's not. You don't think of Townsend as being a blues musician, really, do you? In the same way, but they did kind of. Well, if they go back and they clearly came from R&B kind of background. It's not that dissimilar to the Stones, really. Thing just went in a different direction, and hold on, that's wrong. What's wrong? So again, I think it's got the dynamics in it. The different voices. Townsend sing clearly different voice to Daltrey. I love the power chords, the guitar breaks, the drop downs. And then you've got. I'll do my first shout out on track 2 for John Entwistle. What a bass player! I mean, come on, playing bass guitar like that kind of melodic, tremendously all over but somehow making it melodic and fit, and it's said often, isn't it, that the rhythm section, Pete Townsend is the bass player, holds the rhythm down, and John Entwistle plays lead bass guitar. So in kind of in the Who, all the roles are slightly reversed because nobody quite does what they're supposed to do in their traditional band. But 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. It's a fantastic track, and has something to say. Has a sort of a spiritual message that is really cool. So I'm 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip.
Well, for me, it's got some really cool guitar playing in the intro. Like that, there is definitely some sort of backmask guitar playing in there, which I love all that stuff, as you guys are aware of. The acoustic vibe is great. Obviously, once the song kicks in, there's some really big drumming from Keith Moon. I also mentioned that the bass playing is just outstanding. There's some big guitar strumming behind them. And I noted behind them, sort of like where you're alluding to there, Simon. And Daltrey is just singing great in this song, and there's some cool lead playing through the song. Great little solo. The synth solo is fitting, and the drumming is just intense. It's very busy. There's explosive bits in it, but it fits perfectly. It fits the song perfectly. That Keith Moon was known for being a busy drummer and maybe overplayed a little bit, but that was his style, and that's what he did, and that's what made the Who what they were, I think. So I gave this one a 10 out of 10, and it's never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, great number 2, isn't it? It's a great song that follows through a masterpiece. Look, I love it too. One of the great things about this album is the mix is just remarkable. I love the mix. There's Daltrey's not screaming. He's just I don't know the term for it. He's just sitting there in the mix. And he's no Mick Jagger, I noticed too when I was listening to it today. Like, how Mick Jagger likes to act with his voice, likes to put on these characters and stuff like that. And Roger Daltrey is not that kind of singer. He's singing, and this is not a criticism, guys. He's singing the whole style right through the song, and through the album actually. And I kind of thought that was interesting. So he's obviously comfortable doing that, and I'll be interested to hear what.
Andrew, I was going to say, is that because he's singing somebody else's lyrics, whereas Jagger is not singing somebody else's lyrics? Do you know what I mean? If you're singing your own lyrics, Jagger has a kind of persona that he writes in and everything, whereas Daltrey's not writing the lyrics, is he? He's singing Townsend's lyrics. And therefore, because you've got that removal, it's a different thing. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
It could be. It could be. Well, I don't know what the reason is. So that's a good indication of what's going on. But that's not a criticism. Maybe Roger Daltrey's just he's out there and just breaking the mold. Maybe the first of the great rock and roll singers that's just going to go out there and sing. Eddie Vedder doesn't sing in character, does he? No. So yeah. Look, I love the song. I think it's great. Following a masterpiece. I've already said that. I'm going to agree with my co-hosts. It's a 10 out of 10. But that acoustic vibe that they slip in is again just another masterstroke. Just these little bits. Little bits.
Kurt, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm good. You guys keep going.
Cool.
It's a good indication, when you I'm just going to touch on what Andrew said there for a second. We're all on the same page with this. Like the sound quality. What was this? 1971? Did it come out?
Yeah.
And it just it's a credit to the engineers and the producers and the mixing guys, the guys that did it. So, and you mentioned about the vocal sitting where it needs to sit, Andrew, and everything was mixed really well. I didn't want to sort of elaborate it on too much, but I wanted to highlight that. I think it's very important. It's very good mix, very good for its time. It's excellent.
Well, Glyn Johns, isn't it? We know about what a master is Glyn Johns at being able to mic up drums with 3 mics, and and also I'd say that in common with quite albums from this, the recording of the acoustic guitar is also fantastic. The sound of it is you don't get a better sound than that today. I don't think with all today's technology, still not better. Because he knew what to do, and those. I'll tell you somebody else. There's a guy called John Wood who did engineering on maybe Cat Stevens. If you listen to early Cat Stevens records, the acoustic guitar on those sounds amazing because it's a guy called John Wood who did it. He's a brilliant engineer and understood how to do it properly. So anyway, track 3 is "Love Ain't for Keeping," which is. The shortest song on the album, 2 minutes 10. Well done. It's also one of the lightest songs on the album as well, which is, I think, a good place to. You've had 2 fairly heavyweight songs to start. I think you need something a bit lighter. You know me, I'm all about programming and things fitting in. I know there's a more kind of rock version of this song that was on Odds and Sods with no less a person than Leslie West on lead guitar, which is worth checking out. But it wouldn't quite fit in on here in the same way as this. This also doesn't have synthesizer on it either, which is. But it's the lyrics project optimism, contentment, and the themes of the song include peaceful joy of physical love, the power of nature, and the need to live for the moment, and the need to share love rather than keep it. So it's a very optimistic song, bouncy tempo, nice, great, as I said, great recorded acoustic guitar, and yes, give it a 9 out of 10. Never a skip. I think it does its job well in this context, and I would never skip it.
Yeah, I like I love how we sort of do the albums in like a sequence. Like, the first 2 or 3 songs is usually where you want to belt people around the ears, and then the Who have done it with their first 2 tracks, and they've come in with the 3rd track in a different sort of energy, which is really cool. I love it. Great acoustic feel. The drums are really swingy in this song. There's some really fluid sort of bass playing from Entwistle, and it actually, you can hear where John Paul Jones probably got a lot of his ideas in Zeppelin from, obviously from Entwistle, 100%. Really cool acoustic guitar solo. I thought that was really cool, and the vocal delivery is special. Some wonderful BVs. Overall, it's a very, very bluesy feel to the song, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. Never a skip.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 too. It's not my favourite song on the album, but that's okay. I like the acoustic vibe too, and that's a good thing. That's a smart thing, and obviously that's Pete Townsend, trying to bring, I think, I think some depth to the album. that a lot of other bands did in the late 60s, Simon, certainly with the sitar and stuff like that as well too, so he cleverly didn't follow that route. He stuck with a traditional acoustic instrument, which I think gives it its rock and roll credibility and its groundbreaking status. If he'd gone to the sitar or something like that, which could have been easy for him to do, it could have been a catastrophe for the band and for the album. So I'm never going to knock an acoustic guitar on a rock and roll album, but I'm going to give it still, and I'm comfortable giving it an 8 out of 10, Simon.
No, I think that's right. That's fine. I agree. Tarrington, not a man for the sitar, really. He'd have had it in match. He'd have had it in Matchwood in 20 seconds.
Just checking out Glenn John's history. It's insane. The albums and bands he's worked with. Steve Miller, The Clash, Eric Clapton, the band, Bob Dylan, Linda Ronstadt,
Stones,
Stones, Eagles, Bob Dylan, Zeppelin. That's crazy. I wasn't. I knew of him, but I didn't know that.
Kurt, if you want to check out his autobiography, that's his autobiography.
There you go. I'll have to check that out, Andrew.
Oh, it's amazing read. It's amazing. We're supposed to be doing a producer's show at some stage, so one day we'll get there.
You better pat her. You better get at her.
We've got too many other things to get on top of our vans. We keep cracking the whip now. We'll go to this one. We'll go to this one. We'll go to this one. We can't keep up with Andrew.
I know. He really knows how to take the fun out of it, doesn't he?
Write that down. Producer's show. It's brilliant. Brilliant story of he producing the Eagles, and he went to see them live, and he never got them, and he went to see them again, never got them, and there's somebody going, you need, and the only reason he got them was because they were in a rehearsal thing, and he was like, I'm not getting this at all. Then they broke for lunch, and then they started playing 2 acoustic guitars, and they started singing, and he went, oh right, let's do that. And just only in the lunch hour when they were just mucking about doing that.
Oh wow!
Did he think they were any good?
Wow, crazy.
Morning, John. ZD351. How you doing? We're good. Yeah. So, but it's a great read. But yeah, he's worked with them all. John, fantastic. Amazing. One of those amazing producers from that came up in the 60s and did fantastic work. So all of those things. Anyway, so track 4 is My Wife, which is the obligatory John Entwistle song on any Who album, which apparently is a song about a man who goes out and gets drunk and gone for periods of time, and is in fear of his wife because she thinks he's spending time with another woman. The song humorously describes in the first person all the things he needs to do to protect himself from her anger. Apparently, he wrote the song having had an argument with his wife and exaggerating the conflict in the lyrics, which is funny. I had a funny story about John. He died in classic rock and roll circumstances. With a hooker and after lots of cocaine.
Uh-oh.
Do you not know this? In a hotel room in Las Vegas.
That'll usually do it. No, I don't know that.
He died in a hotel room in Las Vegas, having taken lots of cocaine and had a night with his favorite hooker. And if you cut, there is no more rock and roll death than John Entwistle's. But
wow.
the slightly
she survived, but he didn't.
Yeah, she survived, but he didn't. Yeah. But his apparently his the funeral. His girlfriend at the time ran away with the priest who did the funeral.
Oh, that's perfect rock and roll story. Oh my god,
which is very funny. I think that's none more rock and roll than John Entwistle. Absolutely not. Well done. I raise my hat to him as that's proper rock and roll. That is.
Yeah.
I only discovered that little tidbit recently. It's funny. But, so, and just kept myself. So, again, it's got the power chords, bass drums, and it's got the brass as well. The brass at the end bit to kind of, a different texture to bring it in. It's not my favorite song. I'd give this a 7 out of 10. I wouldn't skip it, but it's not my favorite thing by a distance. As I say, I wouldn't skip it, but I don't. But and because it has enough melodic kind of and interesting things to keep me going, but I don't think it's that great myself.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree with you, Simon. I think it all comes in together with that stomping tom-tom feel on the drums. It's got some nice clanging guitars. The vocals are interesting. It's an interesting mix on this song in particular, and the delivery is really well done. It's not my favorite song on the album. Keith Moon in this song is very busy as well. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's not a skip, but it's probably one of the weaker tracks on the album for me anyway. Andrew.
Yeah, look, I agree with you, and there's no guitar solo on here, and, what do you expect? It's written by a bass player, so of course he's not going to write a guitar solo on there,
The bass guitar solo.
yeah, so, oh, look, it's an interesting song. It's never been my favorite. I think it's a song that, in the context of the album, it's great. It shows the democracy of the band working, giving, the Ox an opportunity to put his name to a song, which is great. That gang aspect that the band has, and that the British guys like to do. They like to throw in their drummer or bass player a bit of the bone, didn't they, Simon? So the Who certainly did it. And sometimes it's a skip, guys. To be fair, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a sometimes skip for me, but I'm going to give it the Andrew Butt in the context of the album, which is a masterpiece. It fits in. It's a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Simon.
For sure, yeah, and I think that's the point about these things, as we discuss often, is that it's an album. And it has to have an ebb and a flow. It can't just all be the one thing, and I think that in that it has enough of a contrasting thing to make it worthwhile to be on the album for sure. With the brass and things on it and things is, I think it's the only song with brass on it and stuff. So I'm fine with it being there. I just don't think it's that great.
I'm just reading another point here, Simon. So I didn't like the brass. I didn't like the brass on there. I'm just reading my note here. Yeah. I don't. It's not the brass that I didn't like. I if there's one criticism on the mix, I didn't like the mix of the brass, because I look. My problem is when I hear brass, I think of the Rolling Stones section. Bobby Keys, and I have that entrenched in me.
Do you think it sounds a bit synthetic? To me, it has an element of it being played on a keyboard. It's one of those early horn keyboard sounds.
I don't know, but it's not organic enough for me. It's no Bobby Keys and Jim Price, so. Yeah, maybe that's another reason why too. I'm giving it such a bit, But yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No, that's right. It was an interesting point. No, it's an interesting point about maybe think about that, because I thought that as well. It has a kind of fairly synthesized sound to it. I've not investigated, but did wonder whether perhaps with the early keyboard sounds possibly sometimes, because they had that, didn't they? You could have horns on them and stuff, but they only worked in one octave. Basically only worked in one octave. They sounded like the instrument within an octave, and then if you went to a different octave, it didn't sound like it at all. It's quite funny.
Sorry, Hugh.
What? Well done, Hugh. It's I don't skip it, but it's
I don't think any of us. Andrew said it was a potential skip.
Sometimes skip, yeah.
Sometimes skip, yeah.
Depends on his mood.
That's how we describe him.
What's the next one, guys? I'm lost. Where are we?
We're up to track 5, which is "The Song Is Over."
The last track on the side one.
Yeah, side track on side 1. So, so this is again another song from Lifehouse. So it was going to be the last song in Lifehouse. It takes place after the police have invaded the Lifehouse Theatre and the concert goers disappear. So clearly the song would be over. It's one of the tracks which has lead vocals by both Pete and Roger as well, and piano work by Nicky Hopkins. Yeah, of course, Stones alumni Nicky Hopkins. According to Pete Townsend, the song provides a mixture of being sad and wistful, but at the same time a high point. That mixture is achieved by Townsend vocals conveying a sense of the end, and Daltrey's conveying a sense of the continuing. I sing my songs to the wide open spaces, and the Townsend bit is the song is over, it's all behind me. So you've got that contrasting thing, two things, which is really cool, and the way they put that together. Again, great controlled drumming from Keith Moon. I think it's I've remarked on it a few times, that about him just holding down a 4/4 beat, so unlike Keith Moon, just to play a straight beat for a bit and kind of not be rolling around the kit in an extravagant Gene Krupa type fashion. But that kind of control. I mean, John Lentil's expressive bass playing. Again, I mentioned it again. That lovely kind of melodic thing, and the great synthesizer chords in the verses and stuff. Give it a great feel. It's and I love the fact that it kind of changes key, doesn't it? There's a lot of key changes going on back and forth. I was amazed by that. Just to keep you interested. That I'm amazed by that. that how many key change for the solo and then back to the original key and then just do another one. Townsend likes his key changes in this song. This is a 9 out of 10 and never a skip for me. I think it's a great song, lovely wistful song, a great ending to side 1, and never a skip.
Well, the song is over, but side A is after this song. So it's a good song to finish side A. Nice piano intro and the guitars that are layered in the intro there. Both of Townsend and Daltrey singing was really cool. I really enjoyed listening to that this time. And, no disrespect, Townsend's not the greatest singer in the world in comparison to Daltrey, but it's fitting with the song. And, we're big on the song and the album flow, and it really works well. The drums are, there's some powerful fills, some interesting guitar parts, including the little solo. I've noted the interesting key changes in the song. And I had to give, shouts out to Nicky Hopkins on piano because his work on this particular song is fantastic. So I gave the song an 8 out of 10, and it's never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, look, I agree with you guys. I think this might be a song, though, that Townsend loves. I think he loves this song because it's doing all these things that the rock professor said. It's going all over the place, but it maintains its cohesion and its rock and roll vibe, which is smart. It's clever. And it's almost like the Rolling Stones. I'm sorry to bring the Stones in, but you almost get the impression sometimes that it's going to fall to pieces, but it doesn't. It's a long song. It's six minutes, so it clearly means something to the band. And all credit to them because rock and roll music is about selling units, isn't it, Brad? It's about making money, selling units, but the band have to enjoy what they're doing too. They've got to do that. And a lot of these albums that we rank, there's a few songs that we identify that they throw in specifically for themselves. And I think Kurt and Simon, that this is one of those songs. This is definitely a song that's close to Townsend's heart. I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's never a skip. A couple of years ago, I probably would have given it a 10, but good bookend. We like solid bookends. It's a solid bookend for some killers on side 2, Simon.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Irish goodbye. I'm gonna listen.
I just want to do one quick shout out to Luca in the chat as well. Thank you, Luca, for alerting us to 666. We should do an Iron Maiden show. The number of the beast, hell and fire, was born to be released. Ah! Okay, but we won't.
Steady now. Steady.
I just dipped into the marble jar and I just picked something out.
I know.
Good work. Yes.
All right, back to
We're
work.
diverse here. All right, boys. Keep it going.
Brother, love
All
you.
right. Love you guys.
Love you, brother.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Keep it going.
Nice to see you, man.
Thanks, Simon.
Right. See ya.
We should. We've got Chris Wheelton, who's a new guy in the chat. He's in London. So, Chris, hello. I'm in near Bristol. So
No, Chris has been here for a long time. He used to jump in early on, long time ago.
Oh, right. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
I've forgotten, Chris. I apologise. I can't remember my children's names. Never mind anything else. What happened last week? He says, "Where can I get a T-shirt?"
You'll have to DM the Rock Professor.
You have to DM the Rock Professor, Chris.
Slide into his DMs, slide in.
Please do Number of the Beast. My first ever vinyl record. Simon Hosford's first ever vinyl record was Number of the Beast, aged 11. And that explains everything, Simon.
Simon, maybe you can come on and run that one for us.
Yeah.
And we'll just you can do a host takeover.
Yeah, you can run that one.
Okay, funny. Yeah, first ever album, Number of the Beast. Just proves how young he is. Oh dear. Fantastic. Anyways.
What are we up to, guys?
We're up to side 2.
Yes.
I'm into side 2, Getting in Tune, which is again written for the Lifehouse project. And I think Townsend said his lyrics describe the power of music, as well as reflect the inner contradictions Townsend was feeling at the time between his spiritual needs and his persona as a rock star. The music incorporates a number of changes in tempo, and it's been so. It's it starts off, doesn't it? I'm singing this note because it fits in well with the chords I'm playing. I can't pretend there's any meaning here or the things I'm saying, which is a classic. It's that's like Dancing in the Dark, isn't it? I get up in the evening, I ain't got nothing to say, kind of song. But it then sort of grows a bit, and and grows into its sort of social and spiritual meaning of music and things, which is again Nicky Hopkins playing piano on it, and just singing softly at the beginning, not too loud. Don't want to wake you up. And then it comes in for the drums, powerfully with that when he sings "Riding on You." Off goes the Moon, and then they're off with again steady drums. So Moon quite restrained at this point. I was interested to note electric guitars under verse 2, and those very kind of echo vocals with getting in tune to the straight and narrow bit. That's right. And gradual kind of speeding up at the end, which is not something you get away with now.
Yeah, I've noted that too.
Yeah. It's funny, but I like that sort of thing, because deliberately kind of speeding up a bit, sort of galloping along. At the end, thinking you never get away with that in these days of grid world, would you? As a another thing. It's a 8.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Great, good start. The side 1, absolutely. Side 2 rather, not side 1.
Side 2, yep.
Right.
I agree. It's a great little song to start off. Side 2, very cool intro. Piano with the bass under it works really well, and I you know, and a lot of songs do that. So that piano with the little bass line underneath is beautiful. Daltrey's singing very soulful in this one. Oh, Daltrey's singing very. Sorry, that was something.
You're right.
Something just fell over on my desk. It's okay. I'm still here. I haven't bailed. The drums come in, and it takes off on a slight bit faster than the start of the intro. Like, I noticed the tempo changes a tiny bit, but that's very cool because it gives a bit of an energy there. The guitar layering is very tastefully done. There's some very nice moving bass lines by Entwistle. And I did note here the speed up at the end is somewhat chaotic. It goes on in a chaotic way, but it fits. Like, it's perfect for the song. And the rhythm section is going off and very busy in that last part too. So I gave the song an 8 out of 10. It's never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 too, and I'm just going to quote a couple of things that I picked off from a couple of other cats that wrote about this song. It's a wonderful example of dynamic tension and release techniques that the band has done really, really well. And also, we have to do a shout out to Daltrey's vocals. So, love it. Who wrote the song? Roger.
Yeah.
Roger, yeah.
Yeah, so I think.
Oh no, he didn't. That's the lead vocal. It's written by Townsend. It's a Townsend song.
Okay. All right.
The weird bit about the Wikipedia thing, the track listings in Wikipedia, is it gives you who does the lead vocals, not who wrote it. In contrast to every other album, if you look on there, it's got the title and then who wrote it and then the time. In this particular case, they've got who does the lead vocals.
Yeah. That's interesting because I think I'm going to pinch what someone said in Rolling Stone about the tension and the releases. It's apt description of the song. Not a knockout punch for side 2, is it? But great song. Don't get me wrong, it's a great song. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. On a good day, Brad, it could be a 10, but I'm still going to stick with my 8.5, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that, Simon.
Yeah. So absolutely, I think it's But again, it has something to say, and Townsend's trying to say something about his position, in the world and his, where he is in his head and things. And Brad, I pick on what you said about the tempo things that give it a dynamic that I think it's one of the interesting things. As I've said on here, maybe not with you on here, but that for me the world is divided into two. Those people who grew up listening to rock music like this, where the tempos change slightly and bands sped up and slowed down, and that's what I'm used to. And then you get to the on the grid stuff, which that doesn't happen. Whatever beat is being set on it, that's how it goes from beginning to end, and there's not that kind of movement. And I find that, and I'm sure I like modern rock music less because it doesn't quite have that movement in it, and because I've been brought up for rock music to have that movement, I feel that modern rock music doesn't have that, and I like it less, to be honest.
Mate, there's definitely no click track on this record.
No, in spite of the fact that some of the songs have sequences on them, there still doesn't seem so. I think they have to behave themselves more than anything else. But anyway, that's interesting. The second track is "Going Mobile." Again, originally written by Townsend for the Lifehouse project. Fairly light song, really. Lyrics celebrating the joys of being mobile and being able to travel around on the open road. And apparently, this is Pete used to like going out driving in his car with no particular destination, just going out. Pete sings this, so clearly they're doing it as a trio, not as without Roger Daltrey singing. So just the three of them, and Pete plays the guitars and synthesizers, and it's it's one of the lighter moments on this album, and as a kind of sort of an environmental edge to it. I don't care about pollution. I'm an air-conditioned gypsy. That's my solution. Kind of thing. It's got a VCS3 synthesizer on it as well. Close to my heart, if nothing else. I give this an 8 out of 10. It's not a skip. Not there's anything. I think it's one of the lighter songs on the album, and that's fine. Got some light with the shade, haven't you?
Yeah, in the context of the album, it's it fits pretty well. It's, for me, this one's got a bit of a country feel in the acoustics. Bit of a country feel for me. Even though it's not country, it's just got that feel there for me. Again, the rhythm section are very busy in this one. Keith Moon and Whistler all over it. They're holding it down. They're very busy. It works. I liked the envelope filter effect on the guitar in the solo. I thought that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed the synth work and the guitars in the song. This song used to be a skip for me, but I appreciate it a little bit more as I've gotten a bit older. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. I wouldn't skip it now. And I rated it a 7 out of 10 in accordance with the rest of the songs on the record, which is what we do. That's the guys. We don't rate these songs as like a 10 out of 10 or whatever because it's our favorite song. We rate them in accordance with the record, so the flow of the record. So that's for me, it's a 7 out of 10. Andrew.
Yeah, it's a song apparently that the critics, when it first came out, said you're either going to love it or hate it. It's I think one review said it was inane, another reviewer said it was a beautiful song. So that's one of the great things about a song, isn't it? And the only reason why I'm mentioning these comments because they were from reputable publications at the time when the album was released, and that Simon mentioned in his introduction, that these magazines, these journalists were speaking on behalf apparently of a generation. So people were listening to them, or certainly reading what they were writing back then. So they had some kind of effect on a band, good or bad. And that's another show. That's another show about the role of journalists on these bands during the 70s. Because anyway, I digress. So look, I'm gonna firmly put 1 foot, Brad and Simon, in each camp. I'm going to give the song credit because of the way that it meshes the electronic keyboards with the guitar. It does that really, really well. And you've got the rhythm section over here being allowed to do what they can, which is fine and fantastic. And they bring an eye for that to the song. The song topic, there's nothing enlightening about the song topic, as Simon had already mentioned. It's just about going for a cruise, which is okay. Rock and roll's about going for cruises. And, it was good enough for Chuck Berry. It's good enough for Pete Townsend, isn't it? So, but I'm going to end with one comment that Brad made that I'm going to pick up on that I kind of locked into, was that country vibe. So, I think what Phil. Oh, all these names in my head. What Pete was trying to do is, I think he was trying to maybe channel some Keith Richards there, because there was some kind of relationship going on between these bands around that time, and the Rolling Stones were masters at dropping in acoustic bits and pieces, whole numbers on albums, weren't they? So I don't know if I'm going to get away with that. I don't know if you guys will give me a break on that. But I'm not saying that he did. I'm just saying that there was a hint. There's a hint of it.
Yeah. No, you're going to be surprised with my next couple of rankings. The notes I put in there.
So I'm gonna give that, guys, 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Silent.
Reasonable. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Hi, Mike.
Track. Who's that? Mike Ross. Morning, Mike. Track 3, Behind Blue Eyes. I've played this quite a lot. It's a fantastic song. Me and Dave have done it quite a lot. Well, I'm going to sneeze. Possibly.
We're going to put...
Frighten it away.
You just got stage fright, didn't you?
Thumbnail at 1:49.
Yeah.
Simon going.
My head's about to fall off.
Simon doing his Andrew impersonation.
It may come back. It may go forever. We'll see.
I tell you what, if it comes back, just mute your camera and mic and let it all out, mate.
Bang.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I just lean back out of view like that. You see?
Yeah.
Oh dear. That's
I've lost where we're up to now.
no, we're up to the beginning of Behind Blue Eyes.
Okay.
So Behind Blue Eyes, clearly again written for the Lifehouse project by Pete Townsend. I played this song a lot. It's to me a fantastic song. I remember hearing it on the radio when it came out. You know, and that kind of very kind of gentle beginning, just strummed pick chords, you know, and adultery singing. No one knows what it's like to be the bad one, to be it's just fantastic lyrics as well. Clearly kind of autobiographical from Mr. Townsend. You know, about his view of the world. Apparently it was triggered by being tempted by a female groupie in Denver, and instead of going off with her, he went back to his room and started writing a prayer, which the first words being, "When my fist clenches, crack it open," which clearly arrive in the rock bit, the rock section. But again, it was, as I said, it was a to be released as part of the Lifehouse project, was sung from the point of view of the main villain, Jumbo. The lyrics are a first-person lament from Jumbo, who's always angry and full of angst because of all the pressure and temptation that surrounds him. Again, very autobiographical from Townsend. And the song was intended to be his theme song, had the project been successful. Townsend said of the lyrics, Behind Blue Eyes is really off the wall because there was a song sung by the villain of the piece, and the fact that he felt in the original story that he was forced into a position of being a villain, whereas he felt he was a good guy. So that kind of juxtaposition of the two things. You know, it starts off, as I've said, with the solo voice, just arpeggiated acoustic guitar, and a bit of bass guitar, and those kind of the harmonies that come in, you know, on the Behind Blue Eyes, which is lovely. I think it's a fantastic, you know, one of those little touches that really stand out, and you think, you know, really lifts it. You know, it's beautiful. I think that I think the bass comes in at 36, but in my dreams they are as empty as my conscience seems to be. And then it's got the rock bit, 218, you know, in for the power. Again, classic Townsend. My temptation was a bird from Brislington. Briz! See, no one will understand that except me. Oh dear. Chris has obviously spent time in Bristol. He knows about Briz. But yeah, the electric classic Townsend, you know, the power chords and the much more driving vocals and stuff, and then back down just to the acoustic and bass for the end, and that last line where they just sing, you know, the harmony singing Behind Blue Eyes to end it is a lovely ethereal touch. 10 out of 10, never a skip from me. Who classic, maybe even a Brad score, 20 out of 10. never a skip. As I say, I've played it in bands. It's one of my favourite songs. Fantastic song.
Excellent. Well, for me, it's, there's some great acoustic and bass playing in this song. The vocal delivery is clearly the highlight for the song, in my opinion. Some really nice harmonies and the melody line. I mean, I go on, about songwriting in other areas when we've done other albums, and this is a really well written song, and the melody, the vocal melody line is fantastic. Once the band kicks in, it sort of goes off on another tangent for me. The drums are all power, some nice lead playing from Townsend, and the little section at the tail end where it comes down and it's vocal. The harmony there is eerie like. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's never a skip. Andrew?
Oh, look, I agree with you. It's one of the, it's one of the defining 70s Who songs, and I think the Rev mentioned it earlier too. I know certainly Simon did. We got to remember that the Who are the Who are a band that straddled the 60s and the 70s, and to be fair, Simon, a lot of bands weren't successful at doing that. A lot of American bands weren't too successful, but a few of these English bands managed to pull it off, and I think the Who have done that. And this is one of the defining 70s songs. I'm going to agree with what Brad said. That gentleness, the gentleness of Roger Daltrey's voice is beautiful. It's it's just, it's sincere, and it always seemed like that for me when I was this young boy listening to this song on the radio. And what I loved about the song on the radio, this is before I even had records. You knew that because you'd heard it before, Simon, that there was, two parts to the song. You knew that all of a sudden it was going to kick in, and then it was going to be rock and roll. Turned into, what is it, a rock anthem. It's mandatory. It's one of the songs that you have to listen to. And I don't want to give too much away for the next song, but it's I like making comparisons, don't I, between two songs, how they link together on an album. And certainly since I listened to this album 20 years ago, this song and the next song are two interlinked songs. So I'm going to give this a Brad score. It's 20 out of 10, never a skip, and it's a song that I'm going to play to the aliens when they come down and say, play rock and roll.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
So excellent. So last track on side 2 is the bona fide classic, Won't Get Fooled Again. Again, Danza wrote this for the Lifehouse project. The lyrics criticize revolution and power, and to symbolize the spiritual connection. This is interesting. To symbolize the spiritual connection he found in music via the works of Meher Baba and Inayat Khan, he programmed a mixture of human traits into a synthesizer and used it as the main backing instrument throughout the song, which is amazing. I mean, that's typical of Townsend, isn't it? To do that kind of thing, just to kind of put in. John, absolutely. Children first. I have that. Women and children first. There we are. So I think it
looks like the rock professor is.
Sorry about that. We had the spinning wheels of doom for a minute. Yes, I think it's amazing of Townsend that he would think about programming a mixture of human traits into a synthesizer and kind of and producing a backing track for the. As I said, it's about revolution In the first verse, there's an uprising. In the middle, they overthrow those in power. But in the end, the new regime becomes just like the old one. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And Townsend felt the revolution was pointless because whoever takes over is destined to become corrupt. He explained that the song was anti-establishment, but the revolution is not going to change anything in the long run, and people are going to get hurt. So it's a fantastic, it's got that. He links up. He's got the VCS3 synthesizer on this, and he links up the Lowry organ to it to get that pulse-coded modulations, and making the backing track for it. It's and clearly they used the that bit of it, the organ track from the original demo that he did for it. So it's again another astonishing track, really, for me. From the power chord that starts, the synth playing, that that synth track that goes all the way through, that they have to behave and keep on with. Again, not a click track, but a click track in a funny kind of way, an odd sort of thing. The double track harmonies in the chorus, classic Townsend power chords. It's got a change of key, solo, and it has. I love that kind of. It drops down as well. Back those drop downs that it has in it, where it just goes down to just the synths for it, and then it comes back in with the drum rates. And clearly, the greatest scream in rock. I'm going to say the greatest scream in rock, which is spine tingling when it comes back in. It's just a sort of massive. You want to know what rock music is about? It's about that. It says it in one thing, one defining thing. 100 out of 10. It's one of the classic rock. The other one, classic rock songs of all time. Never mind by the Who, by anybody. It is instantly recognizable. It is a fantastic song. Brilliantly played, orchestrated, thought out, and is 100 out of 10, and never a skip.
We won't get fooled again. For me, we're never going to get fooled listening to this one because it's a cracker. It's a cracker of a song. It's clearly a great closing song for the album. I like albums when they either end very subtly and very quiet, or they just come out with a belter and they end the album like a bookend, just like bam, and it's done. Great synth intro. I won't double up too much on what Simon's already said. The big clanging guitar chords from Pete Townsend. This is like signature Pete Townsend. The bass is moving around. John Entwistle sets the energy for the song, in my opinion. The drums are just powerful. There's blast of drums. Like, it's remarkable. Keith Moon was a very unique drummer, and I don't think many people played like Keith Moon. He's just one of those guys. Had it. I love the guitar playing from Townsend. At times, it's like he's playing in the Rolling Stones. I can hear a real Keith Richards sort of rhythm feel going on with the sort of off like it's sort of got that very Keith Richardsy sort of vibe to it. I love that, and that's why I love the Stones as well. So the vocals are amazing. The solo is very cool. It's double tracked as well. I noticed that at 4 minutes 24, where the song starts again, where it basically comes back in like the intro, and it's powering along beautifully after that. There's some beautiful, busy and amazing drum fills in this song. Almost like there's almost more drum fills in the song than there is straight playing. It's perfect. You couldn't imagine it any other way. At 6 minutes 38, the song stops. It's like the exact main synth part again. And I love the power when it comes back in with the drums. And Daltrey's vocal scream, as you noted, is probably one of the most recognised history of rock music. So I have to give the song, a 20 out of 10, 100 out of 10. It's definitely one of those songs that if someone has never heard The Who and you got to play one song to them, probably this one for me. Andrew.
Well, if the previous song was a song that we're playing for aliens, this song is the one that the aliens playing in their cockpit when they're flying around universes and slaving worlds, and destroying them too, because it's a great rock and roll song. It's everything that my co-hosts and everyone in the chat saying. It's just a killer. It's a knockout punch. It's probably one of the best songs ever to end an album. It's just remarkable. It's just, I can't find the words to describe it, Simon and Brad. The scream, I'm not going to argue with it. It's one of the best. It's just defining. When people talk about chords, when you hear a chord, it's Jimi Hendrix. When you hear this chord, it's Keith Richards, or you hear a cowbell, it's Honky Tonk Woman. When you hear that scream, you know exactly what the song is. It's just remarkable. Love the live versions, and there's a lot of them on YouTube. And the way, and it was mentioned in the chat, Roger Daltrey, when he's swinging that mic around, and it's just like, and he's got those long shirts on, and he's got his hair, Come on, guys. We got to give the guy a bit of rock and roll credibility here. He's a killer of a front man.
He was a badass front man.
Yeah. He's just, he's just, and I just love the song. I think it's, this is out of the universe. It's out of the universe song. I can't score the song, Simon and Brad. It's just unbelievable. It's everything that rock and roll should be. It takes you on that journey, Simon, that you love talking about. It's one of those songs that you're sitting up at the parapet, and it's midnight, and and it's how many minutes? It's 6 minutes or 8 minutes. How many minutes is the song?
It's 8 minutes 32.
And Brad loves talking about this on other songs. Songs are really, really short, and you wish they could go on. And then some songs are like really, really long, and you don't even realize that they're really, really long. This is one of those songs. It goes on for 8 minutes, and you get caught. You think, why is it ended? Why can't it go on for another 8 minutes? And then sometimes when I listen to it, you think, actually, this is not an 8 minute song. You get caught in just, I can't find the words. I've been trying to think about the words to describe it for the week. I'm just going to say it's just, one of the greatest rock and roll songs ever written and performed. And if the Who are going to be remembered for one song, and I can easily say this, so sometimes guys, when we do albums and we talk about bands and we say, where would you put this song? And Brad will say, be in my top 20, and Simon will say, be in my top 5. I'm going to say this is the Who's greatest song.
Number 1. Yeah.
It's definitely up there, and what a classic way to end an album. It's because I've always liked, and I think we've discussed this in the past with other albums, when they put a real mellow, melancholy sort of song to end an album like that. But I like this just as much, like when they with a belter to finish the album. I love that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? That in many albums, you'd probably swap it around a bit, wouldn't you? You might have this as the opening track because it's so strong and so iconic, and then I can see programming in a different way and getting a different feel. But I think it's quite bold to put it at the end.
I think because I'm so used to hearing it at the end, I think if you had it at the start, nothing else would equate to it.
Maybe not. No.
Because it's
Follow that. Yeah. Yes.
song.
Follow that. Yes. Don't. But yeah, I agree with Andrew. It is, it's, there is no greater rock song than this. There are other great rock songs that are similar, but this is one of the great rock songs.
And the mix on the entire record, and especially on that song, is so good.
Oh, I just don't know how they. Yeah, Brad, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Oh, look, we've lost Andrew.
Andrew went, didn't he? I thought it was going to be me again.
No.
Hoofed out summarily.
Everyone's on the internet, see? That's what it is. Everyone's in the internet. Lockdown. That's what happens in lockdowns, Simon.
They're all on the internet. Yeah, well, on my house, only my wife Caroline's up, but the kids won't be up. He's frozen in a brilliant.
Oh, goodness. Looks like I've lost Simon too. All right, so
sorry. So were you on your own for a minute there?
Yeah, I just started to get worried, thinking, "Oh, bugger, what am I going to talk about now?" Because we're at the end. We're right at the end.
Thankfully, we're.
No, it's it's pretty good. This album was a really good choice, Simon. I haven't listened to this album for a long time.
No.
And I like when we get those albums that have always been, on our musical radar, but you've sort of dropped off a little bit because you're listening to other things. And with this show, we get so focused on listening to albums and ranking, and you sort of drop off listening to certain things. And now it's kind of like, it's good when we touch a classic record that we have, like, personally for me, that I haven't listened to in a long time. It's great.
No, it is. Yeah. It's been one of my perennial favorites. I got it on vinyl, I think. But this is the expanded version with the 16 tracks and stuff, with the unreleased stuff. But
out of all the Who records, would you rate this one as being one of their finest?
It's their best record. I think it is their best record. The Who's best record. Yeah,
I do too.
I think Quadrophenia and Tommy have their moments. I think they have things that are not a bit here and there. I think that the sort of rock opera bit of you do things to fit in with it because you need a story. You need a narrative and a story, and they do that very well. And it's love the Ken Russell film of Tommy. I think it's that's really good. Really enjoyed that as a thing. Sort of gothic rock opera is a classic Ken Russell, really. So yeah, absolutely loved it. But I think this is their most consistent album for sure. I don't think any of the other ones have really come. Tom. I think Tom. There he is. Look, he's back. He's back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's happening. Lockdown issues. I'm surprised actually that it hasn't been as bad. Right, could have been worse during the show. But sorry to interrupt, guys. Thank you very much, Simon. I don't know where you got up to, guys, but love the album. The artwork is remarkable. It just defines, I think, a period of what England was going to move into, Simon, into that mid 1970s bleakness. It's an album, I think, which sees the future. And I don't know whether or not the band were conscious of that, but it not very often do you get a band or an album that foretells what's going to happen. A lot of rock and roll albums get caught up in something and tell something that's happened. But this album's an album, I think, that for me is going to define the social upheavals that your country went through during the mid 1970s. The bleakness, the despair, the politics, the economics.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. So, and it's his, to Townsend's credit, really, that he produced like many, produce an album that has some ideas, some things to you could base your life on. Big ideas, big thoughts about life and about whatever. So yeah, I think their best album. We were just discussing about yes, thank you, Helen. I don't recognise that name, so thanks for joining us, Helen. Go on,
so
Brad.
where do you rank this one, Andrew, out of all the Who albums? Would this be close to being one of your favourites from the Who?
Top two albums, yeah, definitely. Sees into the future, John. Sees into the future. I think this album sees into the future. Is seeing something into the future. Oh my gosh, we're getting internet issues. The rock professor's dropped out. So, do we want to talk about? We're going to do a midweek show. We got a midweek show. We've got some videos to show. We're not going to show any videos. We've got some special videos to show, but you guys are going to have to come back and see us during the midweek show to watch the special video that we've got for you guys.
Yeah.
No, so we'll definitely do a midweeker. I mean, you're in lockdown too, Andrew, aren't you? So
till Tuesday, but I got a sneaky suspicion that our government, who couldn't isolate an isolated island, will put us into probably lockdown for a long time, because we've caught some Australian thing.
Yeah.
How many? Sorry, I shouldn't ask this online.
Well, let's we'll talk about this offline, but if we can, we'll do a midweek show or whatever, and we'll do what we normally do on the midweek one, to wing it. We wing it, and we'll come up with a discussion point. Andrew will post a link to it on the channel, so everyone just keep your eye out up on the channel. Good opportunity to segue into anyone that's watching us right now that hasn't subscribed. Please do. Please subscribe. I haven't looked at the numbers at this particular moment, but apparently we're at 666. We want to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. So that would be remarkable if we could get there even sooner. So please share our channel. Tell like-minded souls that we exist, and let's get this thing cranking. Let's get the wheels turning.
Yeah. The only way that we can do that is for you guys here who are regulars to beat your friends up and say sub. I've been watching a few other YouTube shows, and they go out of their way to say beat up your friends in a nice way.
Difficult in lockdown, but yes.
Honestly, this goes for musicians and artists and bands that you like too. It's a difficult time for everyone, and if you really want to help people, the best thing you can do is share their socials, share their links, help their, the foundations of what they're doing, including like us guys on this channel. This is how the only way we're going to grow is through you guys sharing our links and sharing everything. So please do so. We'd be very appreciative. We're going to have some t-shirt giveaways. We've got some really cool stuff coming up as tokens of appreciation to you guys.
I just want to just do one little thing before we go, guys, before we do a little wrap up.
Teresa. I'll just say good
thank
night,
you, Teresa. And it was mentioned in the chat about Van Halen's version of Won't Get Fooled Again. So I don't know if you guys spoke about that, but the Van Halen version for me, and I'll pass it on to Brad and obviously the rock professor as well, the Van Halen version of them in the studio playing this live is the second best version of this song. The fact that they're just playing it live. You got Alex in the drum room there. You've got Sammy and Eddie drinking out of the same bottle of Heineken. And the Van Halens have been playing this song, Brad and Simon, since they were 16, 17 years old, so they just knew the song. And Sammy's been singing it probably since he was about that age too. So, and what a great way for them to pay tribute to the Who, isn't it? It's just fantastic. Love the version. Second best version.
Yeah, for me, like whenever I've heard the first time I heard that, I saw the 5150 version of it. I don't know they played it live as well, but that one that you're referring to in 5150, where we're performing that, and then they do, is it Dreams after it as well?
Yeah.
And the way Ed sort of compensates for all the keyboard parts on the guitar, the drumming, the way they're just, it's a monster version of it. It really is. And they do it in that typical Van Halen way. They just gave it an edge. So, yeah, fantastic. Have you heard it, Simon? Or is Simon frozen? I think Simon's listening to it.
No, I'm not. I was looking at the chat, actually, because as I watched the spinning wheels of doom.
Have you heard it, Simon? The
No,
Van
I've
Halen?
not. No.
You have to go check it out. It's on
Andrew
YouTube.
sending it to me.
We'll send you the link. If you want. So check it out. But so what are we doing, guys? Who's picked for next week? Brad's.
It's
is it
Brad's
mine?
picture next week. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So usual story. You got to. Now we've got something new. Now you've got to. Brad's going to tell you, because I'm going to probably cock it up because I'm not really up to speed with what's happening on Instagram. So Simon and I will sit and listen because this is the way that we're going to do it now.
All right. So we're not, because we want to know that you guys are actually interactive with us. Okay. So we've got a little trick going. You have to go to our Instagram page and look at our stories. Now, this might be difficult for Simon because I think his is on a little private little. He's got a private little page there. It's so you have to ask him to follow when it's his choice, and you'll get to see it. But go to the story and go to the Instagram stories and look at our story. It won't be on the main page. It'll be in the stories. You've got to go have a look, and that gives us the opportunity to see who's actually doing it. So we've been a little bit sneaky. We're putting a bit of pressure on you guys. Yeah. So we've got to do it. We've got to do it this way because we've got our little app that tells us who's watching us in the chat and not joining in, and this will help us. And this will help us get a gauge on whether you guys are actually following us on Instagram and looking. So
awesome. Now we'll do that. So we'll be anticipating that because we've got no idea what Brad's going to what he's going to pick. But I can tell you, John, it probably won't be Number of the Beast. But Brad will organise something. We'll organise something with Hoss because it's going to be a Hoss takeover. So we'll just the three of us will just sit here and listen to the Hoss talk about
Number of the Beast. Yeah,
Iron
Maiden's masterpiece. Yeah. Now, my gosh.
We might have to tee that up, and that'll be a separate show within itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Iron Maiden. I went to see him here in Melbourne a few years ago now, about 5-6 years ago, and I just couldn't believe how good they were, even just at the age they were then. They were just on fire. And Number of the Beast is a significant piece of rock history, in my opinion. So that would be great to have Hoss take over on that one, because that's obviously something that he's quite passionate about. So that would be awesome. And we'll just be innocent bystanders while Hoss is holding the gun to our heads. So
I loved Adrian Smith, man. I was in love with him playing those Ibanez-destroyers. Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, back to work. Oh no, we're not back to work. We're folding up. We're wrapping up. Gosh, guys, 2.5 hours. We had the Rev here giving us some insights. He's going to jump on when he can't sleep, apparently. So that's good. He was well behaved tonight, which is awesome. Even better.
He's got to behave. He's got to be on with the rock professor. That's the rules.
No tech and tone tips tonight, guys. But we'll organise that. We'll get
tone tips. You see? Oh,
yeah. Well, we only
piece of literature.
This one.
Yeah,
it's the windmill.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's it. Okay. All right. So, but we only ever want to play that so we can flick our lighters, you see, and get our lighters and go like this, So. Well, you know, we got to give each other a little bit of shit. You want to see the shit that these guys give me? Oh my gosh! And
John's unsubbing so that we can be 665 from now.
John,
John, harsh.
Special shout out to our brother too, Warren, who we haven't seen for a while. So
he's all right. Yeah, Warren, you'll be right, man.
Yeah. Our chat's not the same. So if you guys who keep in touch with Warren, I know a few of you guys talk to him on other forums and have direct contact with him. If you can pass on our regards to him, that'll be good. Brad's still looking after his guitar, so he'll want that back at some stage.
He commented on one of my posts on Instagram the other
I saw that. Yeah.
So he's still lurking.
Oh, dear.
I'm out of here. I'm going to pass it on to Brad and then the Rock Professor.
I'll say goodbye to people in the chat. Brad, go on off you go.
No, I just want to say I've wrapped my bit up. I just want to thank everyone for coming on and joining us today. And again, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you guys midweek. So
yeah, cool. So thanks to John, said D351, and Chris Wheelton. Nice one, Chris. Hugh Caldwell, Luca Ferreira. Nice one. Teresa, who's gone to bed. Helen Winter. Ellen. Thanks, Ellen. Going back. Nelson, of course, the mighty Nelson. Hope you're good, Nelson. Keeping well. Mike Rogers. Thanks, Mike. We're back a long way now. It's Mark Tanner, of course. Mark, thank you, Mark, for being around and wielding the spanner. Simon as well, Simon Hosford. We look forward to your Iron Maiden show, Simon. Come on. We go. Amanda Coombs. Thanks, Amanda, for joining. It's good to see you. Who did we work with? Nerd Halen, Donald Sarbo we had as well. Don, thanks for joining. How far back I'm going? Way back. Bent Tom as well. Thanks, Bent. You good? I won't missed anyway. Caleb, of course, Nerd Halen. That looks about it. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next Sunday, or if not before, for more jolly japes. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.